Smoke spreads across the sky over Knoxville, Tennessee. At first glance, you'd think a destructive fire had spawned, but the fires that made this smoke do no harm. This smoke was made by the black diamonds burned in the firebox of Southern Railway number 154, a 280 consolidation built in 1890 by the Schenectady Locomotive Works for the East Tennessee, Virginia, and Georgia Railway. When the ETV&G merged with 4 other railroads to create the Southern Railway, she became part of the Southern's G class of locomotives. She served the South honorably, including working on this very line at one point, until she was retired in August 1953 and sat on display in Knoxville for several decades. Then in 2008, she was donated to Gulf and Ohio Railways, who by 2010 had restored the locomotive to operation. Ever since, 154 has been pulling excursion trains for the Three Rivers Rambler, a tourist operation created in the year 2000. Sadly, this is 154's last year pulling trains, for a while at least, as she is going down for her 1472 inspection after this Christmas season. Quick background on this inspection: every 1,472 operating days of a locomotive, or 15 years, whichever comes first, steam locomotives must be stripped down and every inch of the boiler inspected. This usually turns into a full-on rebuild or overhaul of the entire locomotive. How long this inspection takes depends on the locomotive's operator, but it will be at least several years before 154 runs again. But let's enjoy the remaining time we have with her. Today, 154 will be pulling the Christmas Lantern Express, a Christmas tradition here in Knoxville, and we will follow her train alongside the Tennessee River to where the Three Rivers meet. As a bonus, we also visited the Knoxville Area Model Railroaders, Dan's Trains and Classic Toys, and headed to downtown Knoxville at night. So get ready for plenty of steam, big and small, in the Marble City. We started the morning about half a mile down from the depot, where the track curves to head east along the river. The first train of the day, the 9:15, departed about 25 minutes late due to a troublesome generator on one of the passenger cars. Likely due to slippery rails, 154 had a hard time gripping the rails on this first leg of the trip. Rolling along Nayland Drive, we got caught up in a traffic light which always turns red when the train approaches. This can make getting ahead of the train very difficult. Regardless, we were still able to get a decent view of the train as it passed. From there we were able to get ahead of the train once more and arrived at the James White Greenway, where the greenway and tracks cross a creek that feeds into the Tennessee River. In the background are the massive skyscrapers of beautiful downtown Knoxville. Normally the train would stop for a few minutes to tell a special Christmas story, but due to the train being late, they continued on, which meant I had little time to set up my camera. Despite this, the stack talk from 154 was spectacular as she climbed the grade. About a mile from this underpass, the train stops and heads back to the depot. A Gulf and Ohio Railways diesel locomotive leads this part of the journey. We had some time to kill until the next train, so we headed over to Dan's Trains and Classic Toys. While I didn't buy anything, it was a neat little shop that had a good variety of stuff. A large amount of HO, plenty of scenery items, and some O-scale items on the wall. If you're in the Knoxville area, I recommend stopping by. We're back in Knoxville at the Three Rivers Rambler Depot, and some CSX Jeeps are switching the yard up above, including an old GP40-2. Nice to see a Jeep without the SpongeBob-style cab. Eventually, 154 arrived back at the depot solo, as she had made a stop to take on water for the next trip while the rest of the train continued back to the station. While waiting for the next departure, a friend of ours struck up a conversation with Ethan Ferguson, who had an auto harp with him. Our friend asked if he could play a little something, and he said yes. Enjoy the music. Not every day you get to see a performance in front of a steam locomotive. Wonderful job. We set up on the second story of a nearby building to watch the train depart, and this time, they were on schedule. The train beat us to the troublesome traffic lights once again, and we were held up at 2 crossings this time. Next, we ended up at the end of the James White Greenway. From here, the tracks escape the urban landscape of Knoxville and follow the peaceful Tennessee River east. From there, we set up at the shot I was planning to get for the first run, but didn't have time to get since they didn't stop. This is the beginning of a long S-curve, and very close to where the train stops for the story. 154 puts on a show as she gets the train underway. I don't have any good pictures, but we decided to go to Calhoun's on the river for lunch. I got chopped pork with a side of tater tots, and it was delicious. I highly recommend this place. For the final train of the day, we set up at the Wayne G. Bassler Boathouse, home to the Tennessee Vols rowing program. 154 blows her whistle quite a bit through here, as there are several crossings throughout downtown. Next, we ended up at the crossing that leads to the old General Shale Brickyard site. This is the last public crossing you can shoot at before entering the countryside. Finally, we ended up at the Three Rivers Bridge for a golden hour shot of the train crossing the huge span. As soon as the entire train crosses the bridge, they stop and proceed in the other direction, with the diesel leading the way. And so concludes day 1 of chasing the Rambler, but we weren't done for the night quite yet. About 30 minutes away is the Oak Ridge Children's Museum, home to the Knoxville Area Model Railroaders. On this night, they were running G-scale trains out on their Garden Railroad. During daylight hours, they also have indoor layouts in addition to this G-scale one. If you're ever in the area, be sure to stop by. After that, we headed to downtown Knoxville and took a quick walk down South Gay Street to see all the spectacular lights of all the buildings. Of course, we also had to stop at the Cruz Farm Dairy for some ice cream. As it was getting late and cold, we decided to head to our hotel for the night. Tomorrow, we'll be back at the Rambler. Our morning begins by looking over Knoxville at the bluffs. Down below, 154 leads the 915 train eastward. The next shot is also a far-off view. We are on the other side of the Three Rivers, overlooking the entire trestle that spans the very end of the Holston River. This stunning angle required a half-mile walk, so be ready for a workout if you plan to shoot here. Soon, 154's whistle sounded off in the distance, and she emerged from the trees. The train soon returned the other way once more and headed to Knoxville to begin another trip. Unfortunately, this was the only train we chased on Sunday, as we had to get back home to North Carolina. Hopefully the future for 154 is a bright one, and maybe we'll see her back out on the rails in a few years. Only time will tell. One thing is for sure though, I'll miss seeing her on the annual Christmas Rambler excursions. Hopefully, 203 will put on a good show next year. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Big shout out to all of my friends and family for making this trip one of the most memorable times of the year. Thank you especially goes out to my buddy Titan for being my chase driver. If you haven't seen his stuff, go check out Railfanning with Titan on YouTube and Instagram. These videos take a lot of time, effort, and money to make, so please consider liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and becoming a channel member. Anything helps out a lot. Thank you all for watching, and see y'all in the next video.